Hi everyone, it's Gemma. Welcome back to Pampered Wolf. This video is going to be all about blush placement and blush blending. There are going to be lots of tips and tricks in this video so that you can get the best out of your blush for your particular face shape, because blush can change the shape of your face. It is my favorite part of any makeup routine. It just brings everything together and completes a look. I love blush, and I often do blush overkill, and that is absolutely fine. I won't let anybody tell me otherwise. That is fine. But there are different ways of placing your blush to get different results. So we're going to go through all of those today. Everybody's face shape is different. What looks most flattering on me might not look most flattering on you. So it's going to be a lot of trial and error. Try these things at home and just go with whichever one you feel is most flattering on your face. So let's get on with it. If you are new here, hi, my name's Gemma. I upload 2 to 3 videos here on YouTube every single week, and I'm also on Instagram if you fancy checking me out over there. I would really appreciate it if you would click on that subscribe button and come and join the Pampered Wolf Pack. They are a super friendly bunch. And don't forget to click on that notification bell so you don't miss any future uploads. Okay, firstly, let's talk about blush placement. Now, I am so fed up of the YouTubers telling me that as you hit a certain age, you should no longer be placing blush on the apples of your cheeks because it makes everything look a little saggy. That is not true. It's all about where you place it on the apple of the cheek and how you blend it. Nothing wrong with placing blush on the apples of your cheeks. If you have lovely, voluptuous cheeks that you want to accentuate, there is no better way of doing that than placing blush on the apples of your cheeks. If you have quite small cheeks but you're wanting to make them look bigger, again, nothing wrong with placing blush on the apples of your cheeks. So let's talk about blush placement. I would always try and steer you away from finding the apple of your cheek whilst you're smiling, because when you smile, everything lifts. So if you find the apple of your cheek while you're smiling, this is the worst smile in history, I'm so sorry. If you find the apple of your cheek when you're smiling, there you go, there's the center of the apple of my cheek. When I'm not smiling anymore, the center, or what I thought was the center of the apple of my cheek, is actually a lot lower. And if I placed blush there, I would make everything just look a little more drooped and not as lifted. So that's what I don't want. However, if I do want to emphasize the apple of my cheek, I would use the 2-finger technique. So I'm going to add 2 fingers to the corner of my nose. I'm going to get some blush on my brush. And firstly, I'm going to apply some cheek colour here. Now, if you're using that 2-finger technique, you prevent yourself from getting the blush too close to your nose, which is what we don't want because that creates a dragging down effect. And then once you remove your fingers, any remnants of blush that you have left on your brush, you can just then swipe in upwards motions, still staying very, very close to the top of the apple of the cheek. And there you have it. You still got blush on the apple of the cheek. You're still emphasizing that beautiful, round, voluptuous cheek, or making quite a soft cheek look more voluptuous. But you're doing it with very, very little product in upwards motions so that you still create a more lifted look. Now let's create a more lifted look without getting any product on the apple of the cheek. So once again, I'm going to take my RT400 brush, the same Hourglass blush, but I'm going to use the 3-finger technique. So I'm going to put 3 fingers by my nose, and I'm going to place the blush right at the tops of my cheekbones to begin with, and then swipe upwards motions. And I'm going to go round towards the temples in a C, just to make that lift even more. So as you can see there, so really beautiful flush without emphasizing the cheeks. So if you have quite voluptuous cheeks and you don't want to emphasize those, if you want your face to look a little bit less rounded, this is the way that I would apply it. Now, I like to use quite a fluffy brush for blush application because the fluffier the brush, the less pigment you will get on your skin and the easier it will be to blend out. The more dense the brush, the more pigment you're going to see straight off on the skin, and sometimes that can be quite scary and take a lot longer to blend out or buff out. So I prefer a fluffy brush because it's very, very easy to build a product, but not as easy to buff it away. If you do get too much product on your skin, just take some translucent powder in the same brush and buff that out and it will soften. Another blush technique that I like to use, which also adds to that lifted appearance, especially if I've started my blush here and gone all the way around the corner, is I take my same fluffy brush, I dip into the blush, and I go right from the top of the eye and swipe in diagonal direction up towards the temples. This gives the most beautiful girly look whilst also adding to that beautiful lifted appearance of the face. It really does make a difference, but it's super, super subtle. Okay, so if you have a really long face like me, I'm not offended when people say that I have a long face. I do. It's a fact. I have a really large forehead. I have a really long face. I have quite an angular chin and a long nose. It is what it is. I embrace it. However, if you have a long face like me and you're wanting to make it look a little shorter and maybe a little wider than it actually is, I have a long face, but I also have a very thin face. The way you can do that with blush is by going across the face in a horizontal motion. So you want to get a little bit of blush on your brush. You want to put a bit over the bridge of your nose, just so it's slightly noticeable. It doesn't need to be bright red like you've got a serious sunburn, but a little bit across the nose. And then come down the sides of the nose and right underneath the eye where you would place your concealer, you want to go across horizontally. That way, when people look at your face and when you look at your face, you are drawn to this center portion of the face and everything else just seems a little shorter. Now that can be emphasized even more with a little bit of contour, a little bit of bronzer on the forehead and underneath the jaw will also help to make that look a bit shorter as well. But if you go across horizontally, you create that line across the face that just draws people attention. Now, you're not going to be able to physically see it unless you get really, really close because we're going to blend it really, really beautifully. But we're going horizontally and creating this line across the face, which just helps to draw everything in. I perhaps should use this a little bit more often because it really does make everything seem a little shorter, but you know, I'm a cheek girl. I like to use all these techniques, sometimes all at once. Maybe I should just pick one and go with that, but I do love blush. You all know I love blush. Now, another way to use blush is around the forehead. So I know you've probably seen me do this in my videos before, but if you're just wanting that sun-kissed look, adding a little bit of blush around the perimeter of your face where the sun would naturally hit and you would naturally burn if you were out in the sun, just makes it look like you've been out in the sun a little bit too long. Again, very, very girly look. It's a very pretty, very youthful look. I'm going to do the same that I did on the other side just to give myself a little bit of an eye lift. So as I get a little bit older, and let's face it, we can all do with all the help that we can get with regards to, you know, a lifted look when everything wants to go south and you're really trying dramatically to make everything look like it's lifted. If you want to exaggerate that lifted look, I tend to encroach on where I would usually put my concealer. So just at the outer edge of the eye, I like to swipe up a little bit, which just adds to that lifted effect. Usually I wouldn't go where my concealer generally goes, but in this instance, I think it really helps to elevate a look. And it also looks super natural and really pretty. It's my favourite word of the day. When it comes to blush, everything is just super pretty and super girly. So let's just have a little recap. There are no rules when it comes to makeup application. There are a set of principles. So if you do have a really long face like me and you're wanting your features to look a little shorter, then put a little bit of blush over the bridge of your nose and then blend out horizontally to the outer edges of your face. That way, everything will seem a little shorter because your attention is drawn to the center of the face. If you're wanting to lift your features a little bit, make everything seem a little bit more elevated, use the 3-finger technique, apply the blush right at the top of the cheekbone, and then blend out in an outward and upward direction, horizontally towards the temples and around the corner as well. You can lift that even more by applying a little bit of blush right up to the corner of the eye and up, or also on top of the eyelid in a diagonal motion to give yourself a little eye lift. If you're wanting to make your face shape look a little bit rounder, if you're wanting to emphasize the body of the cheek itself and make it look a little fuller, use the 2-finger technique. So apply the main part of the blush right on the top of the cheekbone, right next to your fingers, blend in a circular motion, and then once you've hardly got any product left on your brush at all, you can then swipe a little bit closer to your nose just to blend in the blush on the tops of those cheekbones and really emphasize the fullness of that cheek. So I hope you've really enjoyed this video. I love blush. You know I love blush. I wear a lot of it. A lot. But I really do think it can seriously change the shape of your face. You don't need to use all these techniques in one go, like I've done today. And I'm gonna wear this all day. You don't need to do that. You can just pick one and run with it, but definitely try all the techniques at home and live with them for the day and see which one you prefer. Because, you know, blush makes a big difference. Really does. Hope you've enjoyed this video and hope to see you all in the next one. Bye everyone.